stillness of Bridgerton's nights, only one place stayed lit. The buzz of a 24-hour laundromat cutting through the silence like a heartbeat. But behind those flickering lights, something strange was happening. Sheriff Tom Hollis, a man who chose night shifts to escape his own past, kept noticing the same thing: a young black girl, no older than 9, slipping into the laundromat alone, night after night, always carrying a small bag of clothes. No adults, no explanation, just her and the hum of machines. At first, Tom brushed it off. Maybe her parent was just inside. Maybe it wasn't his business. But the feeling in his gut wouldn't leave. Something about her presence pulled at old wounds he kept buried. Tom wasn't new to loss. He'd buried his wife and daughter after a tragic crash 7 years ago, and since then, the night had been his only refuge, a place quiet enough to pretend the pain wasn't still alive inside him. But now this girl, silent, routine, and out of place, was breaking that quiet. He didn't know it yet, but she wasn't just a mystery. She was about to become the key to his healing. What was she hiding? And how could one lonely child unknowingly begin to mend the broken pieces of a man who'd long stopped believing in second chances? Before we dive deeper into this emotional story, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you're ready to follow this journey, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Maybe her parents worked nights. Maybe she just liked helping out. That's what Tom told himself at first. But the more nights passed, the harder it became to ignore the truth. She was always alone. No parents, no ride, no explanation. Curiosity turned into concern. Tom quietly began adjusting his patrol route, circling by the laundromat more often, watching from across the street. Each time the girl showed up just before midnight, always carrying that same overstuffed bag. She'd fold clothes carefully, load machines with focus, and sit silently while the spin cycle ran. But on the 5th night, something clicked. He saw what he hadn't before: the oversized jacket, the way she crept in like she didn't want to be seen, the quick glances over her shoulder. This wasn't just a helpful kid. This was survival. As Tom sat in his car, processing what he saw, 2 women walked by, whispering just loud enough for him to catch. That little girl again, every night like clockwork. Someone needs to call social services. They didn't know he was listening, but their words hit hard. He wasn't the only one who'd noticed. Still, Tom hesitated, not out of neglect, but because of what he'd lost. His own daughter, gone in a car crash years ago. And in this little girl, there was a strength that reminded him of her. She didn't look lost. She looked determined. He couldn't rush in. Not yet. Not without understanding the full story. But he made a decision that night. He'd find out the truth. Not just as a sheriff, but as someone who still remembered what it was like to lose a child. The next night, he timed it perfectly, parked in front of the laundromat just before midnight. And right on cue, there she was, emerging from the shadows, slipping inside without a sound. This time, Tom got out of the car. He approached slowly, straightened his badge, and opened the door to the soft chime of the bell. The laundromat was nearly empty, just an old man asleep in the corner and the girl, already busy at the washer. She didn't even flinch until he spoke. "Hi there," he said gently. She froze. "I'm Sheriff Hollis," he added, lowering himself to eye level. "What's your name?" She didn't answer, just stared, wide-eyed, clutching a t-shirt to her chest. Then she stepped back, using the washer as a shield. She wasn't just shy, she was afraid. Tom's heart sank. He started to speak again, but the bell above the door rang. A woman entered, arms full of laundry. "Hey, Amani," she called warmly. The girl's face softened. "Hi," she whispered. Tom exhaled. Relief and 100 new questions. Who was this woman? Why was the girl always alone before? And why did it feel like this was just the beginning? Tom watched as the woman gave him a polite nod and moved past with a laundry basket. That must be Amani's mother, he thought. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. Maybe there was a perfectly normal explanation, but something didn't sit right. Amani quickly distanced herself, slipping to a washer in the corner, her head down, focused. Tom hesitated. Maybe she was just shy. Maybe her mom let her take care of things sometimes. It wasn't ideal, but it wasn't illegal either. Still, he couldn't shake it. She now sat quietly on a bench, her legs swinging as she watched the clothes spin. The woman who greeted her had already buried her face in a magazine. The room felt disconnected. Tom scanned it one last time and stepped out into the cool night, but the air didn't clear his thoughts. Back in his patrol car, he glanced at the photo on his dashboard. Emily's smile stared back at him, and in his mind, Imani's face blurred with his daughter's. The same small shoulders, the same quiet eyes. Something in him shifted. He thought he'd leave the laundromat with peace of mind, but all he had now were more questions. As he drove down Main Street, headlights slicing the dark, he kept checking the rear-view mirror, the laundromat's glowing sign fading behind him. Why did this feel so wrong? Yes, there was a woman. Yes, she knew Imani, but was that enough? Tom pulled over, his chest tightened, his hands gripped the wheel. What if he was wrong? What if this little girl really was in danger? And what if, God forbid, he'd just walked away from it? He closed his eyes, forcing slow breaths. He thought about the girl's flinch when he approached, how she shrunk away. Was it just shyness or something darker? And that woman, she said hello, sure, but was there any warmth? Any sign she was actually the one caring for Imani? Tom realized just how little he really knew. He'd made assumptions, dangerous ones. And now, as the sheriff, as a man who'd lost his own child, he couldn't ignore the possibility that something was very, very wrong. He opened his eyes. Empty street, silent town, and one promise in his gut. I won't let this go. Tom shifted the car into drive and headed straight for the station. If records could tell him anything, he'd find it. He had to. The sun was already rising when Tom sat at his desk, surrounded by open files and glowing screens. He'd searched everything, school records, town registries, social services, but there was nothing. No trace of a girl named Imani, no family, no home. It was like she didn't exist. Frustrated, Tom rubbed his eyes. How could a child fall so completely off the grid in a town like Bridgeton, a place where everybody supposedly knew everybody? But if the system didn't have answers, maybe the people did. So, over the next few days, Tom hit the streets. He spoke to shop owners, neighbors, anyone who lived near the laundromat or used it late at night. Most had seen her. Some were concerned. Others had simply assumed she was with family. But no one knew her name. No one knew where she lived. It was like she'd appeared from thin air. One conversation stuck with him. Mrs. Johnson, an elderly woman who lived in the apartment above the laundromat, had spotted Imani late one night. Poor little thing looked so tired, she'd said, shaking her head. Didn't look like anyone was coming for her. Mrs. Johnson's words echoed in Tom's mind. She looked so tired, Sheriff. I offered her a cookie. She just shook her head and kept folding. That's not right. A child that age? She should be home in bed, not doing laundry at midnight. Tom couldn't disagree. With every passing night, his worry for Imani grew deeper. He began circling the laundromat more often, hoping to catch sight of her just to be sure she was okay. And every time, without fail, she appeared, quiet, focused, always alone. Then she'd vanish into the night like she'd never been there at all. No known origin, no clear destination. It was like she only existed inside those four walls. Weeks passed, and with them, Tom's sense of responsibility swelled into something he couldn't ignore. This wasn't just about a little girl anymore. It was about something deeper. Maybe it was the ghost of his daughter Emily. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was that hole inside him finally finding a purpose. Whatever it was, Imani wasn't just a mystery anymore. She was a mission. And with that came the terrifying weight of what if I'm too late? One sleepless night, long after most of the town had gone quiet, Tom parked across from the laundromat again. It was well past midnight. Imani was there, as usual, folding clothes with slow, steady movements. The image hit him like a wave. He could almost see Emily, helping her mom with laundry on Saturday mornings, trying to be grown up, grinning with pride at every perfectly folded shirt. The memory was bittersweet. But for the first time in years, Tom didn't try to push it away. Instead, he made a decision. He couldn't just sit in his car and hope. He had to do something, even if it scared her, even if he didn't have a plan, even if he was wrong. He owed it to her, to himself, to the daughter he lost. With a deep breath, Tom stepped out and walked toward the laundromat. He gripped the door handle, made himself a promise. "I'm not giving up on this girl." The door chimed. That same buzz of fluorescent light, that same quiet hum of machines. Imani was in her usual spot, folding a faded t-shirt with careful precision. "Hi, Imani," Tom said gently a few feet away. She froze. Her eyes shot up, wide, startled, afraid. She gripped the shirt tightly to her chest and took a cautious step back. "It's okay," Tom said, crouching low to meet her eyes. "I'm not here to bother you. I just want to make sure you're all right." She didn't speak, didn't run, just watched him like a cornered animal, ready to bolt if he made one wrong move. And then Tom saw something behind her. Her backpack. Sitting open on the bench, it wasn't just filled with clothes. Inside was a small blanket, a worn, stuffed animal. Not laundry gear. Survival gear. Before he could say a word, Imani moved. In a blur, she snatched her bag, crammed the folded clothes inside, and bolted past him toward the door. "Imani, wait!" But the door had already slammed behind her. Tom sprinted outside, scanning the street. There, her small silhouette slipping around the corner like a ghost in the dark. He ran, through the quiet streets of Bridgeton, dodging parked cars, cutting through narrow alleys. She was fast, far faster than he expected. Then he saw where she was headed, the old cemetery. The iron gate stood open, yawning like a mouth in the night. Imani slipped through a gap in the fence and vanished into the shadows between headstones. Tom hesitated. The cemetery at night was dangerous. Uneven ground, thick shadows, hidden hazards. One wrong step and he could lose her completely. But the thought of leaving that little girl alone in a place like this, unthinkable. He took a breath, squeezed through the gap in the fence, and stepped into the darkness after her. The cemetery swallowed him whole. Tom stepped into the darkness, weaving between headstones, his flashlight off to keep from scaring her. Clouds drifted across the moon, dimming what little light he had. Every crack of a branch, every shift of shadow made his pulse quicken. "Imani," he called out gently, "please, I just want to help." Silence. He pushed deeper, tripping on roots, his uniform catching on branches. He checked behind headstones, peered into dark corners. Nothing. It was like she'd disappeared, gone. After what felt like hours, Tom returned to the entrance, breathless, defeated, heart sinking into the ground beneath him. She was right there. I had her. I let her slip away. As he reached the patrol car, he glanced one last time at the graveyard behind him, cold, silent, indifferent. He slid behind the wheel, hands trembling, and stared at the dashboard photo of Emily. "This isn't over," he told himself. "I will find her. I will not fail this child, too." The next night, Tom was back at the laundromat, early. He didn't want to miss her. The previous night haunted him. What if she never came back? What if he scared her off forever? But then, a small shadow appeared around the corner. It was her, Imani. Backpack slung over one shoulder, moving cautiously, glancing both ways, then slipping into the laundromat like nothing had ever happened. Tom watched from his car. Her movements were slower tonight, more guarded. She looked drained and sad. He didn't want to rush her again. Not this time. So he waited, patiently, watching the place empty out, customer by customer, until only Imani was left, folding clothes in silence. Finally, he stood, straightened his uniform, and made his way to the door. The chime rang softly overhead as he stepped inside. Imani flinched. Her eyes shot toward the sound. Fear. Recognition. She froze. Tom raised his hands gently. "It's okay, Imani," he said softly. "I'm not here to take you anywhere. I just want to talk, that's all." She didn't speak, didn't run, but she didn't relax either. Her body was still tense, every muscle tight like a coiled spring. After a moment, she gave the smallest of nods. Tom slowly approached, and as he got closer, he noticed something that stopped him cold. Her eyes were red, puffy. She'd been crying. "Imani," he said, crouching beside her, "why are you here all alone every night?" She didn't answer, just looked down, her lip trembling. Then suddenly her eyelids began to droop. Her body swayed. And before Tom could say another word, her legs gave out. She sank onto the bench, curled into a ball, and laid her head on her backpack like it was a pillow. Within moments, she was fast asleep. Tom stared in stunned silence. This wasn't a kid helping with chores. This was a child with nowhere to go. A child who'd made a laundromat her home. Tears filled his eyes. How long had she been doing this? How many nights had she spent here while the world looked the other way? He watched her chest rise and fall, slow and even, safe for now. Images of Emily flashed through his mind. All those nights he and Sarah had tucked her in, made her feel safe, warm, loved. And now here was Imani, another little girl sleeping on a cold bench, alone in the world. Tom slid to the floor beside her. Silent tears streamed down his face. For the first time in years, the sheriff wept. But in that moment of grief, a vow took root in his heart. She will never spend another night here. Not while I'm still breathing. I will protect her. I will be the help she never had. And as Tom kept quiet watch beside her sleeping form, the broken heart inside him began, slowly, to beat with purpose again. As the night dragged on, Tom stayed by her side, his heart heavy with what he'd learned, but now filled with a purpose he hadn't felt in years. He didn't yet know how, but he was determined to help Imani. It was the least he could do, for her, and for the daughter he had lost. What Tom didn't know was that this moment, this night, would mark the start of a journey that would transform both their lives. When the first light of morning slipped through the laundromat windows, Imani stirred. Tom, dozing on the floor, jolted awake. Her eyes fluttered open, scanning the room, until they landed on him. Fear. She sat up quickly, clutching her backpack like a shield. "It's okay, Imani," Tom said softly, his voice rough from the long night. "You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't speak, but she didn't run either. She just watched him, wary, guarded, ready to bolt. Tom took a breath, knowing that his next words mattered more than anything. "I know you're scared, and I get why. But I promise you don't have to be afraid of me. I'm here to help." Her grip on the bag loosened slightly. Still no words. "Can you tell me why you've been sleeping here?" he asked gently. "Where are your parents?" At that, her lip trembled. And finally, in a whisper so soft he almost missed it, she answered, "Gone. She got sick. Really sick. And then she didn't wake up." Tom felt his heart break all over again. "What about your dad? Any other family?" She shook her head. "Just me and Mom. We came here for a better life." Her voice cracked, tears welled up in her eyes and in his. "How long have you been alone?" he asked quietly. Imani shrugged. "A long time." Tom leaned in slightly. "You've been through more than any child ever should, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here. Will you let me help you?" She looked at him, really looked, studying his face like she was trying to figure out if he meant it. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you want to help me?" Tom paused, then answered truthfully. "Because I once had a little girl too. Her name was Emily, and if she ever needed help, I'd hope someone would be there for her. Just like I want to be there for you." Something in her expression changed, just slightly. A flicker of something fragile but real. Hope. "What's going to happen to me?" she asked, her voice small. Tom reached out slowly, letting her choose whether to pull away. When she didn't, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Well," he said with a smile, "first, we're going to get you some breakfast. Then we'll head to the station and figure out how to keep you safe. How does that sound?" Imani hesitated, then gave a small, quiet nod. "Okay," she whispered. And for Tom, that was everything. Just one word, but it meant she was willing to trust. They stood up, Imani clutching her backpack, Tom leading the way, and as they walked out into the rising sun, he knew it was just the beginning. There would be forms, interviews, decisions, but in that moment, she had let him in. And for the first time in a long time, Tom felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. Inside the quiet police station, Imani sat clutching her backpack, nervous but calm. Tom sat across from her, carefully choosing his words. He didn't want to overwhelm her, but he needed to understand more. "When did your mom get sick?" he asked gently. Imani's gaze dropped. "We came from Haiti. She thought we'd have a better life, but then she started coughing. She couldn't work." Tom nodded, heart aching. "After that, we lost our place," she continued quietly. "We stayed in shelters, but she got worse. They took her to the hospital. She never came back." Tom swallowed hard, holding back tears. "What did you do after that?" "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. "Mom said if anyone found out they'd send us back, so I stayed hidden. The laundromat was warm." Tom was devastated. A child, alone for who knows how long, sleeping in corners, surviving in silence. "You were so brave," he said gently, "but you don't have to be alone anymore. I'm here now, and I promise we'll help you." "Promise?" she whispered. "I promise." Just then, a knock on the door. A woman in a suit stepped in. "Sheriff Hollis, I'm Monica Dawson, Child Protective Services." Tom introduced her to Imani, who agreed, nervously, to talk. At first, Imani was shy and quiet, but as the conversation turned to her past, she slowly opened up. She spoke about her mother, about their dreams, about what they lost. Tom listened, heart full, knowing one thing: he couldn't let her go. He pulled Miss Dawson into the hallway. "I want to foster her, and if I can, adopt her." She was surprised, but after seeing his conviction, she agreed to begin the process. Back inside, Tom knelt beside Imani. "How would you feel about living with me?" he asked. "Not just for now, maybe forever." Her eyes widened. "You want me?" "I do. I want you in my family." A small smile bloomed on her face, the first real one he'd seen. In the weeks that followed, Tom threw himself into the process. Background checks, home visits, endless paperwork, but he never wavered. Slowly, Imani started to believe it was real, that she was safe, that this new life might last. During a visit with her new social worker, Sarah, Imani began to open up even more. "I'm not scared all the time anymore," she said. "I have my own bed. He even got me a butterfly blanket." Sarah asked what she liked most about living with Tom. "He makes me pancakes on Saturdays," she smiled, "and he reads to me even when he's tired." Tom was stunned. He never realized those small moments meant so much. And then came the question that changed everything. "Sheriff Tom," she said one afternoon on the porch, "are you sure you want to keep me forever?" He looked her in the eye. "I've never been more sure of anything." "I love you, Dad," she whispered, trying the word for the first time. "I love you too, sweetheart." The adoption hearing arrived. The judge smiled as she signed the papers. "Congratulations, you are now officially father and daughter." Applause, laughter, tears, a family was born. Outside the courthouse, Tom asked how she wanted to celebrate. "Can we go to the laundromat?" she said. "The laundromat?" She nodded. "That's where you found me. It's where our family started. I want it to be a happy memory now." Tom's heart swelled. Together they returned to the same bench where it all began. "You know," he said, "I used to think this place only held pain, but now it's where our story began." Over time, things changed. Tom smiled more, laughed more. The weight he'd carried for years slowly lifted. One morning over breakfast, he asked her, "Would you like to visit someone with me?" She looked up. "Who?" "My wife, Sarah, and my daughter, Emily." They went to the cemetery together, hand in hand. Imani laid flowers and whispered, "I promise I'll take care of him. We'll take care of each other." And from that day forward, they built new traditions. They still visited the laundromat every Saturday, not because they needed to, but because it reminded them of how far they'd come. One afternoon, Imani asked, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you didn't find me?" Tom wrapped an arm around her. "I think about it every day," he said, "and every day I'm grateful I did." "You saved me," she said. "No," he whispered. "We saved each other." From two broken souls to one beautiful family, this wasn't just a story about a sheriff and a lost little girl. It was about hope, healing, and the love that finds us when we least expect it. If this story touched your heart, we've got one more you don't want to miss. Click here to watch another powerful story of unexpected family and second chances.